You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio. What is up? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio, and I'm so happy to be here with Lips. How are you?
I'm good. Hello.
So great to see Anvil back and doing all this awesome stuff. Congrats on the new record, One and Only, which is awesome, by the way.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad that you like it.
I do. I feel very privileged. I got to hear it a little bit early. Tell me, I read that you feel like you guys are your old selves on this release. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is before before I guess the poisoning of the 90s. You know what I mean? The 90s were a crappy era for metal in general. But at the same time, a really great time because there was stuff also going on that you're never going to repeat, right? It just on that level, it's great. You're never going to repeat it. You're never going to, like I was listening to Worth the Wait, which is 92, I believe, 91 or 92. Great. I thought it was great. Actually, surprisingly great. But at the same time, the era in which that came out, no, wouldn't have made any difference. But it's not going to make it. I don't know how to explain what I mean by that.
It was a tough environment for something that sound,
an environment. Who knew about this? Like I'm listening to it right now, but it's not that popular of an album. It's not that, like, although it's really really good. There's nothing wrong with it. But at that, it just went unnoticed. It was one of those albums. No distribution at all in the United States. I remember trying to get it distribution in the United States, and I didn't have any luck.
Yeah.
And it never really, I don't think it ever really did come out in the States. I'm still kind of wondering whether it did. Maybe it didn't. Maybe the End Records. We had a label that put out the albums, but maybe I don't know if Worth the Wait was one of them. But it's some stuff just went completely, even as great as it was, went unnoticed, because it doesn't matter how great it is, because until you have everything in the right place, the timing, who the label is, who the promotion company is, who the manager is, who the booking agent is, and on and on and on and on, and all those little contingencies have to be correct. And then the magic dust of have you put out the right songs at the right time, and are people going to like it? And then you can really make a huge impact. But if it's anything less than what I've just described, then so is the result. It's just, regardless of what you have to offer.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's just the makings of the ways of the industry itself, and just being a the human element, the luck, chance, opportunity, right place, right time. It's just what it is, So, but here we are in this far forward. But I'm in a much better place because of the obvious reasons that certainly the movie made a huge impact on everything, which changed everything. But now, having said that, if everything had been like it was before the movie, there wouldn't have been much of a movie. I don't even know whether I would have survived if with I don't know that a 20-year-old would survive the fame that I've even experienced now. It's not it's not fame is not what people think it is. It's very, very, very hard work. Very hard work. And unless you're ready for it, it's not gonna do you much good.
Great movie as well. I do think a lot of people discovered you guys through that. And you guys just have great music, but you're right that that time in 92, it was such a tough time for anything but the grunge, unless you were a more established band already, in metal to really break out.
Yeah, it's actually virtually impossible, really. I mean, you're going to have a better chance in the casinos.
That says something.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, the house always wins, but in what is it, 13% of the time they don't,
I'm gonna want to go to a casino now.
That's what they say. 87, I think they say 87% of the house wins. So in other words, they never really lose, but they
Right.
do, because the other percentage is the people that actually win at the tables and walk out of there with a lot of money. It happens. And the
Hmm.
same thing in the music business.
But a much smaller percentage, like what you said.
That you might have it might be, might have a better chance of striking it rich being in a casino than you would being in rock and roll, because the unsurmountable things that have to be in place for you to actually get anywhere. The right place, right time. Geez, that's only two of the elements. Everybody involved, the people involved, even including who's in the band at that particular time, the songs that you wrote at that particular time. There's so many contingencies to break through. It's just you. It's like I said, we can talk about it a million times over. I mean, you can try to guide yourself to make it and stuff, but you see, I never looked at it that way. I'm not looking to win, to cash out at the casino. I just want to enjoy it. I just want to enjoy it. I'm a really good poker player, and most of the time I break even, and it's all good. And I've been doing it for years, and like mega years. I've been breaking even in the sense that the fan base has continued to support me for 45 years. That's very, very commendable. Very, very commendable to the fans. It's not just to Anvil, it's to the fans. Anvil fans are fans pretty much for life. But that's metal fans. That's the way you make your mark, and you have a fan base, and it stays with you. And if you're lucky, it stays with you forever. Like if you were influential enough and good enough, you stay with some people forever, and that's what more could you ask? But that's how all the bands survive and continue, because only one in a million makes it big, 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 right? So what are the rest doing? What I'm doing. It's what we all do. Make the best of what you got, and if you can go out and work, and you get enough, you're popular enough, of course you're going to go out there and play. You're going to play there until the cows come home. That's what you're going to do. Because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what musicians do. It just comes with it. So that's the name of the game, and you got to get popular enough. Now, obviously, the Anvil movie made me popular enough that there's an endless amount of shows to be done, because there's people that have seen the movie that have never seen the band. Certainly, millions of people have seen the movie and not seen the band. So that means that there's a lot of business out there for me to capitalize on, in a sense that I could go out, and I have been making a living nonstop for the last 15 years. I didn't make $1 million, but I'm working on the first, and so is everybody else. And that's all I ever wanted.
That's beautiful. Do you think that it's easier getting your music out there today with your audience than it was back when you started? Because there are different ways where you have a label, but where you can kind of be more in touch with fans on social media and get your music out, have a little more control over it.
No, I think that because there's no infrastructure, it's next to impossible to ever break out from a small garage band. I don't think it's not by I'm running a
Mhm.
Facebook page. How are you going to make the public aware? You know that I can tell you that the level the level of promotion, let's as an example, that went into the Anvil movie in comparison to any Anvil album, it it dwarfed it.
Wow. Okay.
It's like, what albums? When did you ever put an album out? You got, okay, the difference is you got a couple guys on a telephone making phone calls to get the Anvil interviews and this that. You got a couple people, right? Whatever, and they work for the record company, there's or at the most, 5 people are on the case to get you got the guys specifically for this area, specifically for that area, whatever. But as far as publicity is concerned, but for the Anvil movie, there were over 180 individual people working to promote that movie at the same time.
Wow.
I was doing interviews from 5 in the morning until almost 24 hours a fucking day, man. It was
Wow.
it's insane. And I'm not talking about I just did it for a day. This was for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that this went on, because it was playing in all different places, in different film festivals all over the world. And it we ended up going to all those film festivals and playing in the film festivals, doing unheard of things like playing in theaters. Like, the band is playing in theaters. Like, what? You know?
Wow.
So it was a pretty revolutionary thing to be part of, and certainly something that was a once in a lifetime experience. Just unbelievable stuff, man. Unbelievable. And what did it turn into? It turned into cementing my place in and name in the business for the rest of my life. It 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 justified all the hardships that I went through previously. It gave everything its meaning and significance, and everything has become part of the story rather than a negative to the story. Basically railroaded the band out of business after our third album and put us in the gutter. Basically, I was able to actually go back and thank him for doing it, because if he hadn't done it, there'd be no movie.
Wow. It's full circle.
Yeah, exactly. It's just remarkable, the stuff that you get to live as a result of what you made possible by showing up to your own future. What does that mean? That means that you got to be ready when the opportunity comes. You always have to be ready, and when opportunity comes, you're ready. So you always have to be ready.
Wow.
And
And did you ever think that the movie would actually, propel your music career like it has and be that life changing?
I kind of predicted it. It's very odd, because in the midst of the failures that put a damper and where we lost our momentum in the throes of that. I knew precisely what was happening and why it was happening, and I came to realize there's nothing I could do to change it. But I knew that somehow, some way, that the mark that I made at that point in my life would pay off later, because somebody would come around who grew up listening to my music and change my life later by either being in a record company or some other capacity, and come back and help me later when I really need it. And as odd as that sounds, that's exactly what happened. Somebody that we were good to when he was a kid came back and made a movie about us. Out of the blue, but out of acts of kindness and friendship. The stuff that you can't determine its value. It's beyond value. The human connection and the things that the differences it could make, and that has to do with the kind of people that people are, the different characters that they are. And what I mean by that is, imagine you're playing one of your first shows you've ever played overseas, and a kid comes in and starts telling you everything about your band, and he's from there. Magical. You're going, I can't believe you know everything about my band and my music, and you're from here. We're strangers here, and you know who we are. It was a great moment for us to come to realize that we had fans, and we were actually getting to meet those fans. That this was a great thing. So this 15-year-old kid knocked at the door of our change room at the Marquee Club in London, England, and it was Sasha, and he was just a kid, and he knew everything about the band and everything about the individuals, what the names of our dogs were, for Christ's sake.
Wow.
Whatever. It just so, of course, being so taken aback by this, we've started saying, you know what, come and hang out with us. Like it's a kid, and you're going, it's great, man. This kid, it's a wonderful. It's like having a little brother hanging around. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but we kind of came together that way. And he started showing up in Toronto, where we live, because he was from London. So he started showing up in Canada, in Toronto. But we find out that's where his mother grew up and stuff. It's like, okay, well, whatever. It's just one of these kind of friendships that is meant to be. But as things turned out, he kind of disappeared. He disappeared. Once he became a teenager, he became like a real rebel style guy, and we didn't know what happened to him. And then all of a sudden, I get an email from him, and he's in his mid-30s, and he's asking me what's going on, and I'm going, I can't believe it. Where have you been? What happened to you? Oh, you wouldn't believe this, and we got to get together. So he made a point of making sure that we got together, and to the level of, he sent an airline ticket to my Purelator to my house. So I get on an airplane and go get to Los Angeles, and he drives up in a Jaguar. It was originally owned by Sean Connery. He's driving 007's fucking car, right? Yeah, it's like, what's this about? What happened?
What happened?
What happened, man? Who are you now? You look the same, but you look like a guy in his 30s. Then than a 15-year-old. He's all filled out. He became a man. He's not a teenager anymore. And I'm just looking at this guy. It's like, wow. And it just takes off the conversations, and it's like no time has even gone by. It's just like he's still the same kid, but he's in his mid-30s, right? So, okay, cool, right? Next thing I know, he's telling me he's coming to Toronto and pick him up at the airport. He wants to talk to me. So I go pick him up at the airport, and I take him to his Uncle Marty's where he used to stay. And he sits me down. He goes, "I'm going to make a movie about you." Well,
Wow.
I start fucking freaking out, because at this point I've come to realize this guy's worked with Steven Spielberg.
Right. Big deal.
He's hanging out with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. I can't believe it. The people that this guy is introduced me to. Where the fuck did I go? Like, what? That's a completely different world, And what happened? Well, what I figured was going to happen, that person came back into our lives and changed everything and rectified all the wrong. It's actually it's poetic.
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, it's justice. So I'm so glad that happened, because your music needs to be out there. And the new record, like,
It's so miraculous. Of course it was destined to be what it ended up to be, because it is so profound how that all fits together, that you're never gonna get a repetition of this ever.
yeah,
What
amazing.
did it mean to that filmmaker? Well, when he was 15 years old and we're introducing him to the Queen's cousin, you know, because the Queen's cousin is a heavy metal fanatic, and the Queen's cousin is friends with every rock star in all of England. So now Sasha is friends with that guy, and he's meeting everybody from Jimmy Page to Robert Plant. You know what I mean? It's like he changed his life.
Hmm.
Taking him and taking him where we were going and what was going on at that particular time changed Sasha's life. It gave him focus seriously in the arts, whether it was music, whether it was film, whatever. But he was finding his way. And it's interesting because he was a drummer, obviously, but not only just an average drummer. He was a drummer that was in the band Bush X,
Hmm.
the original band Bush X, which is Bush or whatever. Anyway, there's lots of bits and pieces of phenomenal kismet and very odd meetings of people that you're going, how does this all fit together?
Hmm.
And I'm at a rock festival in 2005, and I bump into the two members of the band Candlemass, and I find out that they were two Swedish fans that bumped into us on Carnaby Street in London, England, when Sasha took us around London to see what was going on. So imagine, so these guys introduced themselves. We were those two kids that you met on the street in London. And of course, I remembered it. I know that sounds peculiar, but when, like I said, we were on our first out of country tour, and we're meeting fans from different countries, whether they're on the street, whether at the club, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so here we were with Sasha on the street, and two Swedish fans come up to us and start talking, and they were the members of Candlemass.
Great band.
So they ended up at the Marquee where we played, where Sasha was, of course, and we let him in backstage and all that. That's where that all happened. So meanwhile, that afternoon or that evening, of course, when the place first started having people arrive, the two guys that I'd met from Sweden, the guys from Candlemass, showed up, and they were on the floor after our sound check and whatnot. And I was just talking to the various people, and they go, "Hey, remember us? We met you on the street." I go, "Oh yeah, how's it going, guys?" So I go over and I start talking to him, and a third guy comes up and takes a picture of the three of us. Okay. The third guy was the bass player from, okay, now I got to remember the name of the band. Like I said, it's not really relevant. It's more that I remember who I'm talking about, which is Jonas Ackerland. And Jonas was, of course, very, very good friends with the guys in Candlemass. And in fact, that was where Jonas did the first video that Jonas Ackerland ever did was that. Now, Jonas went on to work for Lady Gaga, Madonna, I think, making videos, like big, huge production videos for the megastars. And he's also a director, like a director of films and stuff. And he did the fairly recent movie about the band in Norway or whatever that had all those murders and burnt down the churches and all that shit.
Yeah, I have to look into that one. I'm part Norwegian and I'm not familiar with that, so I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
It's scary.
Anyway, remarkable stuff. And as it turns out, these guys were all meeting each other at the marquee at an Anvil show, the opening of an Anvil show, and I'm bumping into them 40 years later. Peculiar. We're doing a Q&A in Los Angeles, and this big tall guy with long black hair comes walking up to me. And he goes, "I'm a director. I met you many years ago at the Marquee. My name is Jonas." And then I find out he starts telling me he's done Madonna and all this stuff. And I'm going, "You got to meet Sasha. You got to meet Sasha. He was at the show you were at."
What a show.
Each other. So I call Sasha over and then I introduced them. Now they're friends.
Wow.
But meanwhile, they were at that Anvil show together and they could have been standing beside each other. They didn't even know. It's just unbelievable. And these kind of things are, how do you explain them? You don't, man. It's just the way that the universe works, I guess. They meant to be's or
meant to be. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Destinies. I don't know.
Well, Lips, it's been awesome hanging out with you and hearing all these great stories. Congrats on the new record, and I cannot wait to see you guys live in concert.
Yeah, that would be a novel thing.